Hello, hello, hello. Happy new week. Happy Monday. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day? Let's do a quick tech check. If you can see and hear me okay, please drop a yes in the comments. Let me know where you are watching from. I am coming at you live from Denver, Colorado. And since we're starting a little bit late, we're just going to jump right into the content. I am going to assume, even though I know what they say about assuming, I'm going to assume that y'all can see and hear me okay, because I don't want y'all to miss any of these nuggets that I'm getting ready to drop for you. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. We are going to be talking about how do you stay motivated? How do you keep yourself going when nobody's watching? How do you do it? How do you do it when nobody's commenting, when nobody's liking, when nobody's sharing, when nobody really fully understands what it is that you do? How do you keep yourself motivated in this season? Because the truth of the matter is, and I'll get into a little bit more as we get into this conversation, the truth of the matter is this is a very normal cadence of business. Like this part of the business where people are not watching, where you feel like people are not watching, where you feel like people are not supporting, where you feel like people are not showing up, this is a very normal part of the business. Nobody is watching yet. Your views are small, your comments are few, your sales conversations, they're happening, but your pipeline feels thin. The content is going out, but the algorithm hasn't caught on yet. Does this sound familiar? The work that you're doing is real, but the evidence of the work is quiet. And somewhere in the middle of all that, a question starts to form. And you start to think, is this working? Is this working? Have you been there? If you've been there, drop a yes in the comments because today I want to answer that question. And I don't want to have a pep talk with you. I know it is Mindset Monday, but I don't want to have a pep talk with you. I want to give you an honest picture of what this phase of business is, what it requires, and why the women who stay in it long enough to get to the other side, they're the ones who build something sustainable. They're the ones that build something that lasts. Welcome back to another episode of Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott. I am the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit. We are an online education platform where we help women turn their existing skills into multiple streams of income through coaching and digital products. And we do this without encouraging our clients to leave their 9 to 5. We do not subscribe to hustle culture, and you do not have to start from scratch. Happy Monday, happy new week. Today is Mindset Monday. On Nick at Noon on Mondays, we talk mindset. But before we get into today's episode, I have to mention real quick that I'm hosting a live workshop on May 30th called Her Income Lab. Registration opens in May. Y'all, May is this week. So registration is opening soon. I want you to get on the wait list now so that you're first when doors open. The link for Her Income Lab is in the description, or you can visit my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. herincomeedit.com/workshop. Okay, so if you haven't already, I want you to go get your notebook and your pen. Share this episode with your biz bestie. And if you have any questions or comments as I'm going through this conversation, drop them in the chat if you're watching live, or you can just drop a comment if you're watching the replay, because we are about to get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's have a real honest conversation about this, y'all. Building before the momentum arrives. How do you keep yourself going? How do you keep yourself motivated? Because I'm just going to be right up front and tell you, I have been in this phase more times than I care to count. In this phase of business building where you haven't quite hit momentum, You are building in a phase where it feels like nobody's watching, where it feels like nobody's supporting you. I have been in this space way more times than I care to admit. And I think I know a little bit about it. So let's get into it. And I want to start this conversation by clearly stating what this phase is, because I think one of the reasons that this phase of business is so hard to stay motivated in is because this phase of your business is that most people, they don't even have an accurate understanding of what this phase truly is. So until you can truly understand what this phase is, it's going to be hard to stay motivated in it. Most people think if they're not seeing engagement, that it's a sign that something is wrong, or that the work that they're doing, the work that they're putting out there, that it's not good enough. They might start to believe that their strategy is off, or they believe that they should be further along than they are right now. Raise your hand if this is resonating with you. Give this video a thumbs up if this is resonating with you, because the truth is, it's not any of those things. It's not any of those things. It's not that your work isn't good enough. It's not that the strategy is off. It's not that you should be further along than you are now. The phase where nobody is watching, this phase, it has a name. It has a name. It's called the foundation phase. And every single coaching business that has ever generated consistent income has gone through the foundation phase. There are no exceptions to this. There are no exceptions to this. And I want you to think about your favorite coaches. Think about the ones that you look up to. Because yes, even her, she went through the foundation phase. The foundation phase is the period between when you start and when you gain momentum. That's what the foundation phase is. It's the period where the work is going out, but the compounding hasn't started yet. This is the phase where your content exists, but the algorithm hasn't indexed it yet. This is the phase where the conversations are happening, but the referral network hasn't been built yet. This is the phase where the offer is real, it is tangible, but the social proof is still thin. And the thing about it is, this phase, it is not a waiting room. It's a construction site. And here's the thing about construction sites. If you've ever passed one, I have several around my house right now. Construction sites do not look impressive. Like, they have these big cranes and big machineries all over the place, right? They have bricks and drywall, and it's just not pretty. It's just a bunch of structures and poles. It doesn't even look like anything. Construction sites are loud and dusty, and they're full of materials that don't resemble anything like what the finished product is going to look like, right? But the finished product is only possible because of what's happening on the construction site. So here's what the foundation phase is building, even when it looks like nothing is happening. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, even when it seems like no one's engaging, no one's watching, no one's supporting. Here's what that phase is building. It is building your skills. It's building your skills. Because every coaching session you deliver, it makes you a better coach. It's reps, right? Every sales conversation you have, it makes the next one feel more natural. Every single piece of content you create and actually publish, it makes the next piece of content that you create and actually publish, it makes it sharper. The repetition is doing something even when the metrics aren't reflecting it yet. I'm going to say that again. And if you're taking notes, you might want to write this down, that the repetition that you're doing, that cadence, that continual consistency that you're putting out there, it's doing something even when the metrics don't show it. The repetition is building your clarity. So the offer that felt vague in the very first month when you started, it feels clearer by the third month. Your niche that felt uncertain at the start of your coaching business, it has sharpened through the conversations that you have. The language that didn't quite hit in the early content, it's been refined through the feedback that the market has given you when the market engages or the market doesn't engage. And all of that clarity is being built in the foundation phase. Like, it has to happen. And this clarity, it's the clarity that makes everything else work. Anything else that comes downstream, it's because of that clarity. And the repetition, that consistency, it's building your reputation. It's building your reputation. It is carving out a space in this industry that is designed specifically for you, even when nobody seems to be watching. The client you served well in your second month, it becomes a referral by the time you've been doing this for 6 months. The content that you published in January, it will get discovered in September by someone who shares it. And the conversation that you had with a colleague 3 months ago, it resurfaces when that colleague is ready to invest. So the foundation phase isn't silent, even though it feels silent, even though it feels like you might be going live and nobody's actually watching or logging in when you're live. It's not silent. This is not silent activity. It's just slow. And slow is not the same as silent. Slow is not the same as silent, y'all. So I want to honestly talk about why motivation fades during this phase. Because so many people, and you've heard me say it before on this platform, that most coaches who start in this industry, they don't even make it to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months. They don't make it. And it's because of this foundation phase. It's because of the foundation phase. And so I want you to make it. I don't want you to make the decision that you're going to coach and then 6 months later, 90 days later, you have the momentum at the beginning in the first 30 days, and then in the next 60 days, like, where are you? I don't want that to happen to you. So I really want to have an honest conversation about why the motivation phase fades during the foundation phase. Because I think calling it out specifically, it will hopefully make it easier for you to work through. So, the first reason that motivation fades during this phase of business building is because there's a gap between the effort that you're putting into your business and the feedback that you're getting from your business. Because in most professional environments, your effort produces relatively immediate feedback, right? So you do the work, like you have a project, you do the work, someone sees the work, and you get a response, like almost immediately at your job. You might get a grade, it might be a performance review, it might be a client's approval. You get some signal that your work was received and that your work was evaluated. But in the foundation phase of your coaching business, that loop is broken. Like, it doesn't even exist, because you create the content gets 17 views, you make an offer, you get a polite not right now from the prospective client, you show up consistently, and the metrics don't move in a way that feels proportional to the effort that you're putting in. Listen, I have been here more times than not. And as much as things have changed in the online business space, so much has still remained the same. And that is consistency is queen. So you show up consistently, right? But the metrics aren't moving in a way that feels proportional to the effort. And here's the real talk about it. That broken feedback loop that I just described, where you're creating content and it's not getting the views that you believe it should be getting, where you make an offer, you finally put yourself out there and you make an offer and the prospective client says, yeah, I'll think about it, not right now. Or you're showing up consistently and you feel like the metrics should be, reflective of the work that you're putting in to create this content. Because let's be clear, content creation, it takes some time, it takes some effort, it takes some sweat equity, right? That feedback loop is completely disorienting for women who have spent their entire career in environments that provide consistent feedback on her performance. Right? That loop is broken. It doesn't even exist in a coaching business. And the absence of feedback, it starts to feel like negative feedback. Silence says something, right? And it starts to feel like your work isn't sticking. It starts to feel like nobody cares. It starts to feel like all of this is a mistake. This is the reason that coaches don't make it to 6, 7, 8, 9 months and beyond. Because this foundation phase, it's almost like hazing. It is like the hazing period of a coaching business. But here's the thing. The absence of feedback in the foundation phase, it is not negative feedback, y'all. It's the absence of compounding. And the thing about all of this is compounding, it takes time to start. It takes time for your audience to trust you. It takes time for you to build credibility. It takes time for the content to compound. It takes time for people to actually see that you are who you say you're going to be. So you don't feel it while you're building. You don't feel compounding while you're building. But then guess what? One day you do. And then you've built way more than you realized. You've built way more than you realized. It's like, a slow drip at first. And then when that faucet turns on and that levee breaks, you're like, whoa. That is what compounding is. So the second reason that motivation fades in the foundation phase is comparison. It's comparison. And here's the thing. If you've spent any time on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, I don't really get on TikTok, but I'm sure it exists there, and any other social media platform, Threads, you name it. This industry's content, the coaching industry's content, it is dominated by people who are not in the foundation phase. You don't see people talking about this phase. It is dominated by people who have large followings, and it's dominated by people who have impressive income months and launches that go viral and wait lists that fill in hours. And when you are in the third month of building your business, consuming that content, it creates a distorted picture of where you should be. I am having a real conversation, and it is Mindset Monday, and I just really want you to understand that you cannot compare your month 3, your third month in this business, to someone who's been doing this for 4 years. You can't compare it because you're comparing your foundation phase to their momentum phase. Like you're not there yet. And that comparison, it produces a conclusion that something is wrong with you, even when the real conclusion is that something is wrong with the comparison. There's nothing wrong with you. You are going through the natural progression of building a business. You're going through the natural progression of building a business. So, the third reason that motivation fades in the foundation phase is the physical experience of building alone. Listen, it can feel lonely out here in these streets because the foundation phase is often a solitary one. You're making decisions without validation. You're creating content without knowing if it's going to stick. You're showing up for a business that, let's be honest, you are showing up for this business, and most people in your life, they don't even fully understand what the business is, and they certainly don't really understand how they can support you. And that solitude, when it's compounded over weeks and over months, it wears on you in ways that are hard to explain to people who have not been in this phase. I want to equip you with all of the tools that you need to be successful in this business. And nobody ever talks about how lonely it is. Nobody ever talks about this. And here's the thing, none of those reasons that I just described, those are not signs that you should stop. All of what I just described, those are signs that you're in the middle of building something sustainable, that you're in the middle of creating something real. And the middle of anything is always what they call it, the messy middle. They don't call it the messy middle for no reason. The middle of anything is always the hardest part. And I want to directly address something before we get into what keeps you going when you're in the foundation phase. And that is the idea that motivation is the thing that drives action in any phase of your business, but especially in the foundation phase. And I've said this before, but I think it is worth saying again. And I really, truly hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it isn't. Motivation is a feeling. Feelings are not facts, and feelings are responsive to feedback. And when the feedback is thin, then the motivation is thin too. When the views are low and the sales are slow and the pipeline is uncertain, motivation does not show up on a reliable cadence. And if you're waiting for motivation to come before you take action in this phase, that means you're waiting for a visitor who's just not coming. Like they're not coming at all. Because I want to walk you through three things that actually drive action in the foundation phase of building your business. And not one of these three things that I'm going to talk about is motivation. Motivation has way too many conditions. So we need to be unconditionally visible and showing up and moving the needle in our business, whether or not it feels like nobody's watching. Anybody's watching. So the three things that I want to talk about, and none of them are motivation, is commitment, system, and identity. And I want to talk about these three things separately and specifically. So, and before I get into it, this is specifically tied to the foundation phase of building your business. So this is the phase where it feels like nobody's watching. This is the phase before you get to the momentum phase, okay? So I'm talking about commitment, system, and identity, specifically in the context of this foundation phase of building your business. All right. So let's start talking about commitment. Somebody dropped commitment in the comments. Commitment is the decision that you made before the foundation started. This is the decision that you made to yourself before you even entered into the foundation phase. The decision is, remember that decision that you're going to build this regardless of what the early metrics look like. Like, this is it. Like, this is all I got. We gonna make this work. It's gonna work or it's gonna work. So commitment is that decision that you made before you even got into this. You understand that the slow start is part of the process, and it's not evidence that the process is wrong. I opened up this conversation by saying this is a normal part of any business, not just the coaching business. This is any business. And you understand that the women who build something sustainable, they're the ones who are still here in 6 months. They're still here in 9 months. They are still here in 12 months. They're the ones who are still showing up, making offers, and refining their work. I want you to be here in 12 months, in 6 months, in 9 months. Commitment is the thing that is going to hold you and keep you when motivation doesn't show up. Write that one down too. Commitment is what holds you when motivation doesn't show up. So that is commitment, that you are going to do this thing regardless of what those early metrics look like, regardless of what it feels like, right? Feelings are not always facts. Now let's talk about system. System is the practice. Somebody dropped system in the comments. And it's the practice of the weekly business review. It is the practice of protecting the time that you set aside to build your business. It is the practice and specific actions that you take every single day, every single week, regardless of how the previous week went. Systems are what you do instead of waiting to feel like doing it. A system doesn't require motivation. There are no conditions for the system. What it requires is for you to show up at the time you said that you would, and then to do the thing that you said you were going to do. That's all it requires. That right there is a system. It's the practice, it's the habit, it is the boring work that is going to make your business compound during your momentum phase. So we talked about commitment, we talked about system. Now let's talk about identity, because these are the things that are going to help keep you going in the absence of motivation. So let's talk about identity. And identity, I think this is probably the most important of all three of them. And identity is literally the story that you're telling yourself about who you are in this space. A woman who is aspiring to build a coaching business, she has a different relationship with the foundation phase than a woman who is a coach and is building her business. One of them is waiting for proof before she commits, and the other is building the proof through the commitment, through the system, through identifying herself as a coach. Identity comes before the evidence. And we talked about this earlier this month on an episode of Nick at Noon. And if you missed that episode, we talked about the woman who calls herself a coach in the foundation phase, the one who shows up as a coach, who makes offers as a coach, who talks about her work as a coach. That woman is building evidence faster than the woman who is still waiting to feel qualified enough to use the title. Specifically, we talked about calling yourself an aspiring coach. And if you missed that episode, you can watch the replay on my YouTube channel. And the thing about identity, though, is that it's not decoration. Identity is not a decoration. Identity is the frame through which you interpret everything else that happens after it. So you have to claim an identity, and then everything else that happens after it, that identity that you are showing up as, that you're claiming, that you're walking, that who are you, who you say you are, that identity is the frame through which you interpret everything else that happens in your business. And in the foundation phase, that frame, it matters more than feedback. That identity, it matters more. It might not feel like it, right? Because we want the feedback. We're used to getting feedback. But I am getting ready to talk about some spaces and places where you can go to keep yourself going, not necessarily motivated, but just to keep putting one foot in front of the other during the foundation phase. If you have found anything that I have said helpful, or if you have had an aha moment at any part of this conversation, I want you to give this video a thumbs up or drop a yes in the comments, because I'm about to get specific about what keeps women going in the foundation phase, because it is not motivation. It's not inspiration. Mm-mm. I don't feel inspired today. I don't feel motivated today. Yeah, well, we're not always going to feel inspired, and we're not always going to feel motivated. So I really want to talk about the things that keep women going during this phase, because I want to give you something concrete to work with rather than just a reframe. And the thing that keeps you going, number one, is measuring the right things. Because in this phase, in this foundational phase of building your business, the metrics that the platform gives you, whatever platform of your choice it is, the views, the subscribers, the follower counts, the engagement, the likes, the comments, those metrics are almost never the most useful indicators of whether you're building something sustainable. Not in this phase, they're not. The metrics that matter in the foundation phase, they're different. The metrics you should be tracking are: how many conversations did you have this week? How many direct offers did you make? How many clients are you currently serving? How much have your skills grown in the last 90 days? How much clearer is your offer now than it was when you started? And those are the metrics that aren't going to show up in your YouTube analytics. They're not going to show up in your Instagram metrics. They don't go on a dashboard. But these are the metrics that predict whether or not your business is working, because the foundation isn't built through views. It's built through conversations, it's built through offers, it's built through clients, and it's built through results. That is what your foundation is built on. And measuring the right things during this phase, it keeps you focused on what's working, even when what you're building isn't yet fully visible. So the second thing that keeps you going in the foundation phase is collecting evidence. Collecting evidence. So the first thing was, we need to monitor the right metrics, right? And I gave you a whole list of different metrics that you should be paying attention to that have nothing to do with your social media and your content. You should be creating content, but not necessarily fully using those metrics as a determinant as to whether or not this is working, not during the foundation phase. So the second thing is collecting evidence. We have to be collecting evidence. I don't want you to wait for evidence to show up. I want you to be actively looking for it and then calling it exactly what it is. So evidence is the comment that says, this is exactly what I needed. Thank you. Evidence is the colleague who reaches out after seeing your content and asks you how you built what you're building. How are you doing it? Evidence is the client who says, I wasn't sure this would work, and now I cannot imagine not having done it. Evidence is the conversation where you felt for the first time completely confident about what you offer and what it's worth. Those moments are evidence, and you should be collecting those. You should be writing those down. Those in the foundation phase, when the metrics aren't really moving, the evidence is in the very small moments, is in the small wins. So collect them. I encourage you to literally collect them deliberately. I encourage you to write them down, screenshot it, and then reference it when the motivation is low. Because that right there, that, listen, that is one of the most practical things you can do to keep your head in the game. Collect receipts, write it down, screenshot it, reference it. So, the third thing that keeps you going in the foundation phase when it feels like nobody's watching is community. Community. And not a social media community. I mean, a real life community, whether it's a virtual community or some like literally real life community. I'm talking about a community of women who are in the same phase of building, who understand what you're experiencing without you having to explain it. There is nothing like it. A community who can celebrate the small wins with a genuine understanding of why the small wins matter. I would argue that there are no small wins. Every win is a big win. Every win is a big win. A community of people who can hold you accountable to the commitment you said you were going to make, but they do it without judgment when you've had a hard week, because life be life. And we talked about that last Monday, didn't we? Life be life. And I think I mentioned this earlier in this conversation, but building in isolation is one of the hardest things about the foundation phase. Like, it is lonely and nobody talks about this part. But this phase, it's one of the most, being lonely and being and feeling isolated. Ooh, tongue tied. My brain is going and my mouth ain't moving fast enough. Building in isolation is completely unnecessary, because the women who are building the same thing at the same stage as you, they're out there. And finding them, even if it's just one or two of them, it dramatically changes the experience of your foundation phase. It doesn't have to be lonely. It doesn't have to be isolated. It is, but it doesn't have to be. So, the fourth thing that keeps you going during the foundation phase of building your business is the long view. We got to have some vision, we got to have some foresight. And specifically, the understanding that your 9 to 5, that 9 to 5 that feels stable right now, it has its own expiration date. And I don't want you to use this as a fear-based motivator. I want you to use it as a factual anchor. I want you to use this as a factual anchor. The foundation phase of your coaching business isn't just about building income. Listen, it's not just about building income. It's about building options. It's about building the thing that means the next professional disruption that happens at your company, it doesn't catch you off guard and it doesn't catch you without a plan. This is about building the second income stream that your career has always needed, and that most women, they don't even start to build this second income stream until after they needed it. I want you to do it now and leverage your 9 to 5 as the first investor in your business. So if you need it, it's already there. And when the foundation phase feels slow, that long view, that vision, That right there, that is the antidote to quitting. Keep your eye on the prize, because quitting is only the rational choice if the alternative, which is to stay exactly where you are, is acceptable. That's when quitting is a rational choice. But for most women who understand what they're building for and what they're building toward, staying exactly where they are is not acceptable. And it's not because your current life situation is bad or your job is bad. It's because it's fragile. It's fragile, and building something, that's what changes it. That's what changes the fragility of it. That's what solidifies it a little bit more. Now, I want to spend some time describing what momentum feels like when it does arrive. I just spent, I don't know how long, talking about 40 minutes. I just spent about 40 minutes talking about what it feels like when nobody's watching. I talked about what this foundational phase feels like. Now let's talk about what momentum feels like when it comes, because it's coming, baby. If you stay in this long enough, I guarantee that momentum is going to come. Because I think having a clear vision of what you're building toward is one of the things that keeps you going during the foundation phase. Keep your eye on the prize. Momentum doesn't arrive in a sudden dramatic shift. It's not a launch that goes viral or a post that gets 10,000 shares or a month that suddenly generates 10 times what the previous month did. Momentum usually arrives quietly. It arrives as a week where you have two sales conversations instead of one, and both of them feel natural in a way that early ones didn't. Momentum arrives as a comment from someone you've never interacted with, and that person says, I've been following you for a while, and I think I'm ready to work with you. That right there is momentum. Momentum arrives as a referral from a client that you served 6 months ago, and that client reaches out to you and she says, I sent someone your way. I hope it's okay. I just kept thinking about you when my friend described what she was going through. That's momentum. Momentum is not a moment, it's a shift in the texture of your work. It is a shift in the texture of your work. Your conversations start converting at a higher rate. Your content, it starts attracting the right people without you having to push it as hard. Your offer, it starts to feel settled in a way it didn't when you were still figuring it out. Your clients start getting results that produce other clients. And here's the thing, I don't want y'all to miss this. When the momentum arrives, you're going to look back at your foundation phase very differently. You're going to look at it very differently. You're not going to look at it as time that you wasted. You're going to look at it as time that made everything else in your business possible. Because the momentum didn't appear out of nowhere. It does not just come out of thin air. It came from the conversations you had before anyone was converting. It came from the content you created before anyone was watching. Momentum, it comes from the offers you made before anyone was even saying yes. And it came from the clarity that you build through months of doing the work before the work felt like it was paying off. All of that, what I just described, that is what momentum is made of. And you cannot get to the momentum without going through the foundation. And there is no shortcut in this business. I'm sorry to say. There is no shortcut in this business. There is only the work that is done consistently and the work that is done long enough for the compounding to start. That's it. That is it. And before I close, I want to say, hey, y'all, thanks for joining. Are you finding this content helpful? If so, drop a yes in the comments. But before I close, I do want to mention, because I would be remiss if I didn't, something that I talked about at the very beginning, and that is on May 30th, I am hosting Her Income Lab. It is a live workshop where we are going to build your coaching offer together in real time. And here is why today's conversation connects directly to Her Income Lab. One of the things that makes the foundation phase harder than it needs to be is not having a clear, specific offer that you're confident in putting in front of other people. When your offer is fuzzy, every conversation feels harder, every pitch feels less sure, every moment of low motivation has an extra layer of uncertainty underneath it. And Her Income Lab, we are literally removing that layer, because you're going to leave with an offer that's specific, an offer that is priced, an offer that is done. If you haven't been toying with the idea of starting a coaching business, all you got to do is make a decision, because you're going to leave this workshop with something that you can put in front of people immediately. You'll leave with something that takes one variable out of the foundation phase and it turns into a fixed point that you can build from. Registration opens in May. Woo, can you believe it? May is like right now, right? And the women who are on the wait list, they're first. They get first dibs. The link to the workshop is in the description, or you can visit my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. So here's the thing. Nobody's watching yet, and that's okay. Because the foundation phase is not the phase where people watch. It's the phase where you build. And what you build in this phase, that is the thing that determines what the next phase looks like. So I encourage you to stay in it, not because it's comfortable, because it's not comfortable. I encourage you to stay in it because it's necessary. The second stream of income you're building from your existing skills, it is not built in one single good week. It is built in the accumulation of the boring, ordinary weeks where you showed up and did the work, even when the metrics were quiet. I encourage you to measure the right things, all those things that I talked about earlier in this conversation. Measure those things. I encourage you to collect the evidence. I encourage you to find your community. And I encourage you to keep your eye on the prize and to hold the long view, like I talked about earlier. Your momentum phase is coming. It's coming. And it's not because it's promised to you, but it's because you built the foundation that makes that momentum possible. So I want y'all to come back tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I see the yes in the comments. Come back tomorrow for Strategy Tuesday, because I'm going to be talking about the follow-up strategy that turns no's into yeses. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on so you don't miss a beat. I am here Monday through Friday at noon Mountain Time, Nick at noon. The registration, the wait list link for Her Income Lab is down in the description. Registration opens in May. I want to thank each and every one of you who came in and joined me on this conversation, whether it's live or on the replay. Thanks so much for just taking a little bit of your time out of your day to spend it with me today. I do not take it for granted. I truly appreciate it. Get on the wait list for Her Income Lab, herincomeedit.com/workshop, or you can just click the link down in the description. I hope to see you in the room, because we are going to, when I say you're going to leave with an offer that you can sell that day, that's exactly what I mean. We're going to be doing it. We're going to be doing it in 3 blocks of time. Just get on the wait list. You'll learn more about it once you do that. All right. I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.